Are you looking for an editor? I actually do free critiques and readings for your story every single Saturday on my live stream.
My name is sacred. I am Butternut. You want to minimize the chance of a reader being pulled out of the story and being like, wait, what's going on? Forget dropping to the drop zone. I'm dropping you guys now, but drop or die. I would go harder in on the language that you use when describing the technology, the mech, the air units. In a maze of unending grid-laid streets with no avenue of exit in sight, when I wake up from dreaming, sometimes I wake up silently screaming. Add or adjust some of the language so it matches Boschian landscape, mirror world, Shadowland.
Or if you're looking to hire an editor for your next book because you're ready to take it to the next level, I do full editing services where we'll focus on character.
The man froze for a moment, then nodded. Wolf, me, Wolf. I want to know more about each of the characters. Wolf makes me suspect that he's either father, a pirate, the evil antagonist, like the capricious nature of life's tapestry. You want to highlight and elevate that relationship between the two of you, that meeting moment.
World building.
I want more of this. Rhyming tone is music to the ears. I saw you're dead inside. That something happened I never knew about. And all those lies, loneliness, and us having to cope with it, relate to it, understand it, or fight against it is a very powerful message.
Dialogue.
He was surprised that this woman, of all people, was giving him a pep talk, because sometimes when we have characters who speak too much, it's easy for someone to tune out if they're reading it. And this is a really interesting world, and I don't want people to tune out on your work.
And structure.
Ben jumped up a little disoriented and grabbed his gun. Running to the stairs, he heard men yelling, "Who else is down there?" During this shootout, I would just add a little more detail, make this a little longer, because this shootout is fun. This is like the action sequence of like, kill the bad guy, pow pow.
So that way your book will be all ready to be published. And let's take it to market.
All right, there we go. Are you looking for an editor? Are you working on your story? Or are you just looking for some plain old inspiration? Welcome to Kauffman Writes, day 61, and we're going to get some writing done today. We'll talk about some things that are holding us back from getting our writing done, or even like sitting down and just writing in general. I know I myself have struggled a couple of times with actually being able to just sit down and write. And today, the struggle is a little, this week, oh, there we go. And this weekend, the struggle is real. So we're going to do a couple our writing sprints of the day. We'll do 2 writing sprints, 1 break, and we'll really dive into it. And if you're looking for some editing services, I offer both a free excerpt, readings, and critiques on my Saturday live stream tomorrow. And you can email down below, thecreativeghostwriter@gmail.com. I also offer paid edits and a much more in-depth review of your entire story. Pricing is contingent on word count. So reach out to me for more questions. Awesome. So we're going to hop right into it. And by the way, I am Kauffman. Welcome to Kauffman Writes, my daily creative writing live stream to help you beat writer's block and tell the story that you want to tell. Okay, so we're going to go straight into writing sprint number 1. All right, and let's throw up the music. All right, and let's see, I was checking out my outline. I was just thinking about what I need to do next for them. They are about to get to the midpoint, but all right, so for them to get to the midpoint, although I think this is probably going to be chapter 20 is what I'm thinking about. Originally, I was going to have them hit midpoint after the village, during the cannibal village, but I just didn't think that was it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right quite yet. All right, we're gonna play around and we're gonna see what happens. Well, they just escaped. I think it's time to mix things up a little bit. All right, let's do it. Let's roll. Hey, what's up, Vaughn? Welcome to the live for today, my man. Hope you're getting some writing in today, dude. Hey, what's up? Akio in the house. Welcome, Akio. Vaughn, let's see. He said, "Oh man, you can clear of that I owe you today." Nice, excellent. I'll message you after the stream. Appreciate you, my man. All right. Excellent. Getting in a nice little, that was a nice little writing sprint. As I'm getting to this next part, I'm realizing that the more I know the places that I want them to go, but as I'm kind of mapping out their journey, I'm realizing I'm going to have to put together a map. Now that like I'm really thinking about it, because I'm kind of having them go through these different environments, but by the time I get to the end of the story, I can tell that I'm going to have to readjust their some of their trajectories because I don't want every single land I don't want the landscapes to start blending together. Otherwise the world gets boring. And I really want to give every single scenario, every scene, the opportunity for it to feel like it's a unique experience. Even if it's a forest, even if it's a desert, that it's a unique version of a forest or a desert. So, and I'll be able to better develop that through mapping out the world, and that's kind of something I'm developing through this rough draft. So TBD. But thank you for joining me. If y'all are here on the live stream, let's see. Let's throw on our break. Awesome. How are y'all doing today? It's hopefully if you're able to get some writing done this week, great. If not, it's been a busy week. I know this week, especially like today and a little bit yesterday, I was like struggling. It was difficult for me to even get into like the writing mindset. Like, let me tell you that I don't know what it was with this weekend, but the struggle was real. Hence why I thought it would be a good idea to throw up my question of the day to you. How do you find time, resources, and motivation to write? There's so many different strategies and there's so many different things that I've tried before, but it always changes. And it kind of changes depending on my mood and depending on what I'm dealing with in life. It's it can be really hard to find the time to write when you're working 40 hours a week or you have family responsibilities or let's say you're a student. It can be difficult to find the time. For myself, I'm consistently doing probably easily 80 plus hours a week. And I think what's worked for me is just the consistency. The consistency of these live streams has made a huge difference. And the doing this as an accountability partner, using the live stream as an accountability in a sense has just really helped. And even on the days where like today where I just didn't feel like writing, I get into it and then I kind of start my creative gears start turning and I'm able to kind of get back into the story. And today I didn't even do what I usually did when I'm feeling out of it and I didn't even reread the last portion. I I just kind of hopped into it because I knew it was time to get into like a new spot. When I think about like resources, I ask myself, what are different resources that you can use? Stories, television, TV show, absolutely. Um, Let me think. It's easy to go online and search for like writing prompts if you're just struggling to come up with something to write. Let's see. I would say traveling somewhere new. I know we've talked about coffee shops before, but have you ever tried writing in like a completely different type of writing shop or not right, a coffee shop or traveling to like maybe a town that you haven't been to before? It's actually a really good strategy. I was doing this when I started it about 2 weeks ago when I did my last travel and I did one of my live streams in just some random coffee shop. And it kind of gave me a different vibe for the live stream and for what I was working on. I think that's new scenarios are definitely always very, very helpful. Let's see what else. How else do we find motivation? Let me think. I would say for me, especially once I get through the block, once I get through that like hump of like, okay, I don't feel like writing, and I get into like wrapping my head around the story that I'm working on, that's actually a really good strategy for me because at heart, whatever story or stories you're working on, like you're going to get inspired by it. There's a reason that you picked your story. And if you can remember the reason that you got like passionate about it or inspired, regardless of whatever goal it is that you chose, you want to get yourself back to that creative, like that drive. And that drive, that passion is going to triumph over the negative mindset or the things that are holding you back from writing. But it's difficult. It's absolutely difficult. It's difficult to go from dealing with life's is garbage today, like bills, maybe health problems, things happening with friends, family, and then to bridge that to get back to creative inspiration. It's very difficult. And the more that you can be intentional with how do I get there, I think the easier it makes it for yourself. Like I said, the accountability partner kind of helps me, the accountability live stream. So I think that's done a number for me. But you have to figure out what works for you, right? And try different things. I'm always a proponent, try something new. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you don't know until you try. And sometimes that could just be as easy as like, all right, I'm just going to force myself to write right now for 10 minutes and just see if I can write anything. Or it could be as difficult as, I'm going to sign up for a new writing workshop. I'm going to sign up for a writing class. Pro tip, if you put your money out there into buying some type of writing workshop, class, you name it, you are less likely to procrastinate and stop yourself from doing it because nobody likes to lose money. If you've put your money where your mouth is and you force yourself into some type of writing experience, you are then essentially forcing your future self to start writing, right? And it's like, if I show up to my, one of my like writers groups, like let's say I go to a free writers group one day, like, all right, maybe I might skip out if I'm having a really bad day. But if I have a paid class that I paid a couple $100s for, I'm probably not going to skip out because like don't couldn't afford to waste that money. Like let's be real. And then once you're there, then you can reframe your mindset. Absolutely different. Absolutely. That would be my recommendation. You can, always also watch like writers, like in writing influencers online. I'd say that's another really good strategy. Kind of see like what other writers are doing when they're dealing with writer's block. I think that can work out as well. So those are a couple ideas that I've been kind of playing around with. Let's see. What else has worked for me? Oh, you can always start a new story. Like, what if you don't feel like writing today and you get in front of a computer or you get in front of whatever you usually write with. Write about journal. Journal with whatever's frustrating you for the day. That wouldn't be too bad of an idea. And then you can kind of just push yourself into it and then use that as like a transition and as motivation to like get yourself into just doing something, writing something. Awesome. By the way, Jessica, thanks for stopping by the live for the day. Appreciate the like. Yeah. So I think there's so many different types of strategies that you can attempt. There's so many different things that you could try to like get yourself into that writing mindset. But at the same time, it is important to give yourself a break. If you've been writing consistently a lot, or let's say you've been writing a little bit and like let's say your like life's really crazy, it's all right to want to take a break. Don't get down on yourself. Like, of course we want to write, but writing can take work sometimes. And you also want to put yourself in a place where you're feeling creatively to be able to like write the stories that you want to write and be able to tell the story that you need to tell. And if we're exhausted from work and exhausted from responsibilities, and then we try to sit down and write and nothing comes out, like sometimes maybe we're just pushing it, right? it might be more effective if, like, let's say every single week during the work day, right? You finish work, you get home, you're like, I'm going to write today. I got to do it. You sit down, procrastinate, social media, television, family, you name it. And let's say that happens to you every week. Then like that just means like you need to try something differently. Maybe you only save your writing time for the weekends, right? If you're sure, it might just be a 40-hour week job that you have, but if you have a family, like that's another like 40 hours. And that's like minimum, right? If you're a student, think about how much time you have to practice and study for class. Like that's a lot. And I think sometimes we end up comparing ourselves to other writers or even published authors that we see online. And we're like, oh, well, you know what? They've done it and they've just been writing for the last 6 months. But that's their job. That's what they do for a living. Moral of the story, don't compare yourself to anybody else. The only writer that you're working against is you, yourself, and you. I was going to say you, yourself, and I, and I'm like, not me. Don't compare yourself to me. I'll simply give you strategies of things that have worked well for me. You can try it and then let me know whether or not they actually help, or you could be like, Kauffman, these worst advice ever. Let's see, Jessica. I've been taking free classes here and there, but with school, I'm swamped with the extras. I got a novel idea today. Totally excited. Yeah, I totally get that. So, like, first off, with school, like, school's a lot of work. And I remember it was difficult for me to create stuff in addition to my school load, in addition to my workload. And sometimes when you're a student, especially if you're doing like things for, if it's writing related, like, I think finding ways for it to be able to align as both like school projects and your personal writing is really effective use of your time. Knowing that like you probably don't have as much time as you would hope. But that's so cool. What was the novel idea today? I'm excited. I want to hear it. What was the novel? I think getting a new book idea is one of like the coolest things. Then I just add it to my like idea list of 20 ideas over here. Oh, it's the best. Let's see. Caiaphas Relief. By the way, welcome to the stream, Caiaphas. Thanks for dropping by the live stream today. Let's see. How long did it take for you to become comfortable with your writing? You know that's a great question. I would say, in all honesty, I'm never 100% comfortable with my writing. I started writing when I was probably about 8 years old because my parents got me this create your own story set. And I was a fan of Super Mario Brothers. So I wrote a 20-part Super Mario series. It was like 2 to 3 sentences per page and stick figures. And like, I loved it. I think I've always been comfortable within my own creativity. And then if whether or not people like it or they don't like it, like I don't, of course I care, but I don't care enough that that it affects my self-esteem. I'm really about whatever you're working on, like you should be having fun with it. Like have fun, enjoy the story process. And if you're enjoying what you're creating, which that's the coolest part. It's the coolest, greatest part of story development. You're going to be comfortable with your writing because you're having fun with it. Now, if your goal is to become a published author and to be able to publish your work or option a screenplay or script, then of course you have to take other people's recommendations into consideration, but you want to use those recommendations, you want to use editor's advice as you want to use it as feedback to layer on top of your script or your story, but don't let that feedback affect your self-esteem and the way that you view your story. So, but also, I would say in addition to that, probably just consistency over the years has helped me out a little bit as well. I also went to school for creative writing because I knew that's what I was passionate about. And I think there's definitely been years, there's been times where I've been working on stories and they don't, I like write a story, I come up with an idea, I write the things, and I'm like, wow, this sucks. But you know what? It's all right. There's so many there's so many times I've written stories and I'm like, yeah, the story's kind of garbage. But you know, I just set it aside. I'll come back to it if it's something I'm actually interested about. Oh, yeah, I hope that answered your question, Caiaphas. Is have you are you at a point in your writing where you're comfortable with it yet? Or are you still trying to get comfortable with your writing? Let's see, Jessica. I'll PM you the book idea. Excellent. Wonderful. I would love to hear it. All right. And that actually wrapped up the rest of our break as we're looking for writing inspiration and ideas. So, by the way, if you're here on the live stream or you're watching this on the replay and you found any value from the writing sprint so far or from our conversation today, don't forget to follow and or subscribe to this channel, and you'll see all the daily creative writing videos, streams, and shorts that'll help you become a better writer. My goal is to help you tell your story so that way we get to see more like good work out there. Like I want to see more stories, and I know writing itself is a process, but let's just make it easier, right? You don't have to write 7 days a week to write a story. You could write 1 to 3 times a week over the course of a few years while giving yourself some breaks in between, and you can still tell the story that you want to tell. It's just being intentional with strategy and the way you uh, give yourself time to write. Let's see. Where was I? Okay. Let's see. Caiaphas, what was your first book idea? Uh, yeah. So I would say my first legitimate story was an epic fantasy story titled The Crystals that I wrote. I want to say between grades. It's been like grade. I think I started it in 5th grade or 6th grade. So I must have been about 9 or 10. And then I worked on it, I think probably about 6 years, 6 to 7 years. And I filled up about probably 10 or so notebooks worth of stories. And essentially, it was just an epic fantasy story. A lot of the background was derived from like my favorite books, like Lord of the Rings. That was one of my favorites. Wheel of Time was another epic fantasy series. I definitely had a lot of inspiration. The Aragorn series was another one. And yeah, I hadn't done Game of Thrones yet, but yeah, that's what it was derived from. I would say the overall story was just all right, but as a very stereotypical kid hero gets transported to another land, has to go collect these crystals with the sword to save the world. And it was very stereotypical. I had so much fun writing it, but by the time I got to the end of it, which must have been like maybe 900, 1,000 pages. But this was like 1,000 written pages. So this was like, it was a lot. It took me a while to transcribe that into a digital format. So yeah, use what you're inspired by. Think about whenever people are coming up with like ideas or they're trying to think of like what do I write next. Think about like what sorts of things like would pop up on your social media feed. The algorithm probably knows you well enough, depending on what social media you use, or even if you're here on YouTube, that'd be another recommendation. Are you working on any book right now? You know what? I'm glad you asked because we're about to hop into our second writing sprint. So let me hop back in here and let me throw this up. So this is actually the story that I'm working on right now, Caiaphas, where it's called The Last Scarecrow. Now, here's the synopsis if you want to get a sense of what the story is about. Let's see. I just want to make sure you can see it. There we go. So that's the story that I'm working on. It's probably I don't think I've heard a story that's a kind of a cross between a post-apocalypse type novel and a dark fairy tale. It's finding its footing. I would say right now I'm at what? I'm at about 33,000 words. It's probably somewhere between 100 to 150 pages when it's not in the Comic Sans font. But yeah, I would say this is the story that I'm working on now. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's right now my heroes, the scarecrow, a crow, and a pixie are traveling through the land as they're journeying to go find the graveyard of the last, which was told to them by the last robot that they needed to find something there that would be strong enough to counteract the first demon's magic, which is slowly destroying the rest of basically all living things that are still alive in this world. So that's where we're at right now. We're actually getting close to the midpoint. So I'm going to throw up the music. Now, once again, if you're here in the stream and you want to get some writing done, of course, feel free to join me. If you want to just sit down and write for the next 20 minutes, or let's say you've had a really long day or a long week, you're welcome to read along as I'm working on my story, and I'll write vicariously for the both of us. Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. I would say I go live every single day, so you're definitely welcome to read along. If whenever you have time, you're more than welcome to swing by. It's at the rate that I'm going this because I'm writing 30 minutes on it every single day. The rough draft will probably be done by summer. And then once I'm done with the rough draft, I'll start making a plan for how long it'll take me to go through the editing phase of it, and then what that final draft and publication process will look like for me. So definitely stay tuned. Come check back out. Maybe at some point I'll probably put together a website for it to kind of give more details about the story itself. All right, and to write, we're gonna need some good writing music. Back to our music, and writing sprint number 2 is queued up. 20 minutes on the clock, and it's time to write now. I got my muse, the dogs to help me with a story writing today. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. I love it. I had to finish the chapters. Had to finish the end of the chapter. Oh, no. Don't get too excited. They get as excited as I do when I finish the section. Music down. All right, let's do that. Oh, I was really happy with that portion I got through. Sometimes when I get to the end of a writing sprint, I have to like there's times if I know I'm near the end of a chapter, I know like I have to like finish it. I can't like if I have less than a page left at the end of the chapter, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna finish it. So that one was easy, and I hopped down to perfect. The next chapter will be chapter 20. And we are going to get to wait, what's a good title for it? It will be called I think for now I'll just go friend or foe. We'll leave that. I don't know if I like that chapter too much, or that title, but we'll get to see who our new character is tomorrow. So once again, thank you for joining. I'm glad. I hope that you got some writing done as well, or if not, that you enjoyed my storytelling as I was going through it. Let's see, catching up on comments. Vaughn, in the story, I'm praying for a rainbow. Ooh, a rainbow would actually be kind of fun. Actually, there's going to be something fun I'm going to do with the weather in a little bit with rain. And I might be able to employ a rainbow and maybe some type of gold or magic. That I'm going to think about that. That's a good idea. And by the way, if you have any writing questions, I'll throw that. Drop a question below. Let's see. It looks like I see one. By the way, Stephanie, welcome. Thanks for joining me on the live stream today. Welcome. We were just getting some writing sprints in. And now if you have any writing questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Let's see, Caiaphas. Let's see, I can't find my own style, and I have so many thoughts in the back of my mind telling me my book has no feel to it. How do I handle that? So many thoughts at the back of my mind telling me my book has no feel to it. How do I handle that? Well, it sounds like that you have, and I have so many thoughts in the back of my mind, and I have so many thoughts telling my book has. So it sounds like you finished a book. And first off, Caiaphas, I want to put out there that first off, congratulate yourself. Congratulate yourself and appreciate yourself that you were able to write a book in the first place. That's victory right there. So many writers and so many people out there who have ideas aren't even able to start with writing the book. And the fact that you finished that, incredible. Now, how I think my second question or my question to this would be, have you taken the book through any drafts before, or is this just the complete rough draft of the book? Because I might challenge you, if this first draft feels like you feel like there has no style in it, rough drafts, when we get through the end of the first complete draft of a book, there's going to be a lot of problems with it. There's generally going to be a lot of character issues. There might be problems with the plot. A lot of grammar might sound off. The structure could be poor. And that's actually really common on your rough draft. The goal of a rough draft is to get the story out, get as many ideas out there as you possibly can. Once you're done with the rough draft, then that's when you actually can go back through it on the second draft, and you actually get to refine all of the things like the plot, the characters, the dialogue, and you get to refine it and make it sound either more believable or more in the direction that you want to go. My guess is there probably is a sense of style in there. It could be that, and actually, I guess my question to you would be, what makes you? So many thoughts in the back of my mind telling me my book. I guess my question is what makes you think that there's no feeling to it? Is it possible that you're thinking less of it? Do you have some type of expectation on how it should be? I'm of the belief personally that every writer out there has style. And that specifically, if I were to categorize what is style, style is the combination of how we define our character development, how we define dialogue, how we define world building, how we use structure, and how we do plot or narrative. I am the belief that all 5 of those elements contribute to our individual style. So I'd if you want like some feedback on any of it, I actually do free critiques and reviews every single Saturday right here on my Saturday live stream. Let's see, I think I had my banner earlier. Here you go. There's the banner down there. If you want like a free reading or critique for tomorrow's live stream, shoot me an excerpt. I'd be happy to take a look at it and see if maybe I can give you some better feedback and some better analysis. Because just from like the question, it's hard for me to say like, okay, there is no style in it, or okay, there is style. I would challenge there probably is style in it, but maybe there's a lot of opportunities. Maybe like the dialogue just doesn't sound good. Maybe some of the characters feel flat. And I think that's kind of how you improve your style is you fine tune, you work on each of the things that feels like it's not working. Let's see. Vaughn, hire an editor. Yes, absolutely. An editor is absolutely a great call. Like I said, I do the free editing reviews excerpts on Saturdays, and then I also do professional editing services as well if you want more of like a deep dive. So, but it always depends on where you're at as a writer. And if you're at a point where like, okay, I need to go back to my story and do work on it, or if you're like, okay, it's ready for me to get the full feedback and summary from somebody who does it professionally. So that way I can get it ready for a final draft and publication. I'm a new writer and it's rough draft. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so awesome, Caiaphas. That is so cool. Yeah, I like when I think about my original story, I think that's kind of how I felt like when I finished my my epic fantasy story I was telling you about earlier with titled The Crystals. It was, like I said, it was like 1,000 pages and I thought it was garbage when I finished writing it because the characters just kind of felt like cardboard cutouts of like Lord of the Rings characters and the world felt kind of flat. They're just, when I went back to it, it just felt like a lot of the things were flat. And I don't think it was necessarily that bad. I think it just needs work. That's all that it is. My style wasn't that it wasn't there. It just needs more work to refine the story and the things you're trying to get across. Let's see. I feel that way because sometimes I'll read someone else's book and I can literally feel the emotions pouring out of the pages. And you see, that's always the challenge we get ourselves into. The struggle that we deal with is we read work that's done really, really well, and then we end up comparing that to our own work. When the truth is that writer, completely different journey, right? If we were to compare, if let's say I read a book like Game of Thrones, right? I read Game of Thrones, incredible novel, clearly best-selling, and then I compared that to my own work, I'd feel so depressed. I'd be like, incredible author, even if he can't finish the last book, but we'll leave that aside. But incredible author, and then I look at my own and I'm like, wow, my writing sucks. It's the comparison game is always our worst enemy. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. We are writing our own race and our own story. And additionally, you said you were a new writer, so like it's a good thing that you recognize that. Usually what I would recommend, Caiaphas, is like when you think about your own story, what are the specific elements that make you feel like your story is not good? If it's a general like feeling like, oh, I'm not feeling the emotion of it, maybe listing out like, okay, so do you feel like when you read, is it like the characters just don't feel realistic? Is it the dialogue doesn't feel clever? Or maybe you just need to work on like word choice. Maybe you need to add more words to your vocabulary just by like searching more different word options, because the more we vary our word choices in storytelling, the more it creates a unique effect for the reader. Yeah. Yeah, those are kind of there's a couple recommendations that come to mind. But yeah, I'd definitely be really interested to check out an excerpt if you want and give you some feedback. And Caiaphas, ask yourself this, is it possible that you're being overly critical of your own work because it's yours? Have you had anybody else besides a friend or a family member, somebody who could give you like completely objective feedback? Have you had anybody else read like an excerpt or a portion of it? Because it could be that you're just being overly hard on yourself. And as writers, like we do that all the time. Writing is rewriting. I could literally rewrite my stories a million times and never be happy with it. If anything, that marks the heart of a good writer, because you always want to keep making your stories better. Let's see, Stephanie. I get anything you just said. And right now I'm doing a second edit to fix anything I missed. I just wish the book wasn't so long. I'm curious, how long is your book? Generally what I've seen is writers tend to talk about the length of their book in word counts. I've been doing page counts for so long, but now as I've like been working with more and more writers, both just in writers groups over time and with clients, I'm realizing that because there's so many different types of formatting and fonts that we use, word count seems to be like the gold standard in writing. And even as like I think about Last Scarecrow, which I'm working on right now, Last Scarecrow right now is about 34,000 words. And I'm probably about 45% of the way through the novel. And I think when I get to the end of the rough draft, I'll probably be just under maybe 80 to 90,000 is my guess. So yeah, second drafts are a process. They are. But I think like once you like push into that second draft, that's always so exciting to me, because then you get to really start refining the characters and the elements that you want to tell. You get to pick the things. You're like, all right, this character storyline works and this is great. This character storyline sucks. That character is going in the garbage. And I think that's like the fun part. But I know like sometimes a lot of writers can feel like the second draft is what's the word? Kind of like it's a process. Like sometimes writers can feel like the second draft becomes work because you're using less of the creative element and you're doing more of like the editing. I would say find ways to keep making it fun. For me, I like to write everything on storyboards. I use whiteboards, papers. If there's a chapter that I'm stuck on that feels like it's boring, then I would just write out like what's the things happening in the chapter. And is it boring because I'm rereading it for the 10th time? Or is it boring because the characters don't feel believable? Two different things. Let's see, Caiaphas. Thank you, Kauffman. I feel more confident now. My book's title is Dark Liaison, by the way. I'll send you a draft soon. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Absolutely. Dark Liaison. Well, that sounds like a cool, that's a good title, by the way. There's already an interesting hook there. Yeah, I hope that helps. I've just like I've worked with so many writers, and especially a lot of newer writers in my time, and I love the writing process. And I hate it when I see so many newer writers when they struggle with like getting the book to that final draft and getting it out into the world, because there's such great stories. There's such incredible stories. And when you see a lot of published books, when you see a lot of like published films, television, there's a lot of garbage out there. Because to get out there, it's not necessarily you need to be the best. You need to meet the bare minimum quality. I would much rather we see much more better storytelling. That's what I want to see. And great storytelling starts with the heart, and then we improve it with all the different elements of style. Stephanie, it's 930 pages and the word count is 194,000. Yes, Stephanie, yes. I have to be careful about clapping. My mic. So like you get snaps. Heck yes. 194,000 words. That is an achievement. Congrats. 100%. So I just want to put that out there because that's super cool. And you did 194,000 words in 4 months. That's incredible. Like, Stephanie, that's inspiring me over here. I'm like, wow, I'm not writing enough. It must be a really fun story though. If you're able to get 194,000 words out of that, that means that's what 50, you did roughly 50,000 words a month, which breaks down to what's that? About 15, 30, 45, 60. So about 12,000 words a week. That's really good. Good for you. That's incredible. What's the story about? But yeah, I could definitely see with having that long of a word and a page count, how it could feel that the second draft could feel like much more of an achievement. It'll be worth it when you get to the second draft, though. I promise you it'll be worth it. It's probably a great story. Absolutely is. It's a very dark story. Ooh, even better. I love dark stories. Let me see. I would say I've been a horror buff and a thriller buff my entire life. So I definitely have an appreciation for darker stories. What do I watch and read? I think I'm generally attracted to it. For me, it's less about the genre. I'll read and watch anything that ranges from comedy all the way to like graphic horror and all the things in between. I think I gravitate towards fantasy the most because I like to write fantasy and sci-fi, but I've done a little bit of everything. That's super cool. Dark story. Yeah, 194,000 dark story. I'm honestly a little curious now what it's about. What's do you have a title for the book, or do you have a working title for it? Yeah, I try to think about like if I wrote a book and it was 194,000 words, what my second draft process would look like so I don't get burnt out. I think after I finish the rough draft, I would probably step away from it for a couple weeks. I would kind of let myself reset. And then I would break up the 194,000 word edit into probably a chunk of time. I would probably break each of them up into 4 sections. I'd probably break it up, since it sounds like your pace has kind of been 50,000 words a month. I would say I'd probably break it up into like editing one section per month. That's the way that I would tackle it if I were you. And you could do even a little less, like set low goals for yourself, and then if you achieve them and you do more, great. What I wouldn't want to happen for you is I just wouldn't want you to get burnt out, because that sucks, because that's a lot of work, and it's probably a really cool story. So, but definitely good luck with the editing process, and I hope that you're able to get through it. Yeah. I would be yeah, I'm actually curious what average word counts are for stories these days. I'm actually really curious. So I'm going to Google, I'll show this. I'm going to Google what is the average word count for a novel 2024. I was actually just kind of curious. The average word count. So the average word count, this is just initial search off Google. The average word count for adult fiction is between 70,000 to 120,000 words. Interesting. So that's the average. For children's fiction, the general rule is the younger the audience, the shorter the book. Yeah, that makes sense. And for young adult novels, the average is 50,000 to 70,000 words. Nonfiction word counts sit between 70,000 and 120,000 words. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, actually. My which makes sense. I think Last Scarecrow, my book's probably going to fall, like I said, probably around 80 to 90. I think originally I'd been thinking it would be a young adult novel, darker. I'm not sure if it would constitute as young adult. Maybe I'll just create my own genre. I just thought that was interesting. I was curious. Let's see. It's true crime, and I touch based on mental health and how people react to different trauma. It's called To Be the Hunter or To Be the Hunted. I was editing it as I was writing it. Yeah, I do the same thing. Absolutely. I like I'll edit as I go. If I have to rework something that's more than like a couple pages, I'll make a note of it and come back to it later. But if it's like easy character edits, grammatical things, I like to do it as I go. That's cool. But mental health, yes, 100%. If there's one thing I'm a proponent of, it is mental health awareness. Like, if more people went to therapy and took care of their mental health, we would be in a much better society. Is my belief. But that's cool to be able to tackle a story like that. It's probably very difficult subject material to touch upon. You're you're actually not the first one. I know a couple other of our regular writers who hop on here sometimes also do a true crime and do some like darker true crime stuff, which is cool. It was interesting. I actually thought that I would see more like romance and comedy stories, but I think I've generally seen like predominantly I've seen a mix of fantasy and true crime or the thriller genre, the two that I've seen the most recently. To Be the Hunter or To Be the Hunted. It's kind of interesting. So like it kind of makes me think, because you said it's a true crime, so it makes me think it's some type of maybe like a serial killer type thing. I'm not as super familiar with the true crime genre, but I think I've seen more true crime television and media and movies than I've read. Well, that's cool. Good luck. Good luck with the process. I'd definitely be happy to check out an excerpt for you if you ever want to feedback on anything you're dealing with. Absolutely. All right. But thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. True crime. And yeah, if you're writing, as you're editing, you're more than welcome to come join me as I'll be here writing every single day. So if you ever need have like writing questions, I'll be here. Sometimes I know the answers, and other times we'll ask our community. Oh, that's super cool. With how many more true crime stories I've been seeing, I've kind of been wanting to like work on a true crime story next, actually, now that I think about it. But I've been going back and forth. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so by the way, if you're here on the live stream or if you're watching this on the replay and you found any value in the writing sprints or the conversation so far, follow and or subscribe to this channel because I do daily creative writing live streams, shorts, and videos to help you become a better writer and just help make the writing process easier for you because I know sometimes it's a struggle. And if you're going to be online tomorrow, you should join us for the big Saturday live stream. So my Saturday live stream, here's my normal banner, but Saturday live stream is my critique and review show. Right now I have about 5 to 6 submissions so far. So definitely I have the email down at the bottom if you want some of your work critiqued, or just show up and you can hear me do some cool read-throughs. I have a little bit of an acting background, so I have a lot of fun getting into these readings if you want some pure entertainment. Let's see. I do know that this book is the best writing I've ever done. Yes, that is an incredible feeling. Yes. Ah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes along when it's published. Then that'll be super cool. That'll be super cool. It's rewarding when you're getting through a story and you just feel that level, that sense of accomplishment out of it. Oh, that is such a rewarding feeling. That's kind of how I'm feeling with this last Scarecrow story. I think this last Scarecrow story is going to be one of the strongest fantasy novels that I've written before. So I'm just super excited about it. And as I go through the process, I'm like, all right, like these are the things I need to fix. Like I know there's still a lot to do, but when we get it to like that published, the place for when it's ready to be published, it'll be so cool. Good luck. I genuinely hope you're able to get through the rest of the editing process and bring it to getting it published. Really good luck with that. Hey, welcome, YS Books. Welcome to the live stream. We are we're just talking about some of our works and some of our writing right now. So it's been fun. But I've got some I've been getting some good writing done today. But before I wrap up the show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on my I made a little editing based video for the ad for my Saturday editing critique review show. Let's see. I do know this, but as I'm editing, I posted it on Inkit. You know, I'm actually not familiar with Inkit. What is Inkit? Inkit, the reader-powered book publisher. However, it's discovered trying into globally. Interesting. I'm actually not familiar with that website. I'm going to check it out. What's your is there a way for me to check out an X? So it's for exciting narratives. Interesting. I'm gonna have to do a little research because I'm just not too familiar with the platform. But yeah, it looks interesting. It discover the Inca author subscribe, empowering writers to earn from their creativity. So it kind of seems like you put up your work here. Exciting narrative, the world's first reader-powered publisher. Upload your manuscript to go to your community. Interesting. So it's kind of like it's a community building tool as you're working on your manuscript, or maybe it's a published. Interesting. Kind of like a cross between like an Amazon publishing and like a Patreon type deal. Interesting. That's super cool. Thanks for sharing that. Actually, I definitely want to check this out. I'm always on the lookout for new writing resources. Super cool. And yeah, definitely if you're Stephanie, if there's any like excerpts or anything that you have available, I would love to check out some of it on Inkit. That'd be super cool. Awesome. And let's see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw up my editing ad for the live stream tomorrow. I'll do that briefly before I hop off. Let's say use buy me a coffee to publish my work. You know, I've heard of that before, but I haven't. Coffee is the best way for creators to accept support and membership from their fans. Yeah, I've heard of that service before. I just haven't checked it out yet. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so I mean, buy me a coffee is essentially like Patreon. It's like the same thing, but for writers and authors. Interesting. And you do membership. So both Inkit and Buy Me a Coffee kind of seem like similar-ish. I have free stuff on there too. Oh, that's super sweet. So then like people can get into your book or they can get into your like what you're working on and then you can get the free stuff so it gets them more interested, invest in your community. That's super cool. I've like wondered what types of like free stuff do you offer on there? I've kind of like asked myself as I'm like developing this book, like what ask myself like what types of free things would I offer that people would value? Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check this out. I actually want to check out both these sites. Thanks for the recommendations. I have full stories for free, and this same stories is audio drama for supporters. Oh, that's actually really smart because audio is such a great way to make it easier. A lot of people love listening or prefer even just listening to audiobooks. Absolutely great way. Mm. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, YS Books. What I'm going to do, I'm going to throw up this editing video. Feel free to check it out, or this is just an advertisement for tomorrow. So you can feel free to check it out if you want some editing services, and it kind of gives you an idea of what my Saturday live streams look like. Usually they've been a lot of fun the past couple weeks. So I'm gonna throw this up, and I'll have this up. What time are you on this weekend? 2:00 tomorrow. 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Saturday and Sunday. Let's see, I can throw that back up. There we go. Yep, 2 p.m. Saturday and Sunday Mountain Standard Time. I will start the Saturday show tomorrow at 2 p.m. We'll start with a live writing sprint, and then we'll hop into the critiques and the reviews, generally around 2:30, give or take. Awesome.
For
And
an editor, I actually do
there we go.
free critiques and readings for your story every single Saturday on my live stream.
My name is sacred. I am Butternut. You want to minimize the chance of a reader being pulled out of the story and being like, wait, what's going on? Forget dropping to the drop zone. I'm dropping you guys now, but drop or die. I would go harder in on the language that you use when describing the technology, the mech, the air units. In a maze of unending grid-laid streets with no avenue of exit in sight, when I wake up from dreaming, sometimes I wake up silently screaming. Add or adjust some of the language so it matches Boschian landscape, mirror world, Shadowland.
Or if you're looking to hire an editor for your next book because you're ready to take it to the next level, I do full editing services where we'll focus on character.
The man froze for a moment, then nodded. Wolf, me, Wolf. I want to know more about each of the characters. Wolf makes me suspect that he's either father, a pirate, the evil antagonist, like the capricious nature of life's tapestry. You want to highlight and elevate that relationship between the two of you, that meeting moment.
World building.
I want more of this. Rhyming tone is music to the ears. I saw you're dead inside. That something happened I never knew about. And all those lies, loneliness, and us having to cope with it, relate to it, understand it, or fight against it is a very powerful message.
Dialogue.
He was surprised that this woman, of all people, was giving him a pep talk, because sometimes when we have characters who speak too much, it's easy for someone to tune out if they're reading it. And this is a really interesting world, and I don't want people to tune out on your work.
And structure.
Ben jumped up a little disoriented and grabbed his gun. Running to the stairs, he heard men yelling, "Who else is down there?" During this shootout, I would just add a little more detail, make this a little longer, because this shootout is fun. This is like the action sequence of like, kill the bad guy, pow pow.
So that way your book will be all ready to be published. And let's take it to market.
Awesome. Perfect. So there's the ad for editing. Once again, send me your excerpt either tonight or sometime tomorrow before the show. And depending, I'll add it to the queue. Assuming that I'll have enough time for them. I'll separate all of the excerpts that I have. I'll give each of them time frames in terms of how much I'll read and then how much time I'll spend reviewing it. So that way I can try to get to as many as possible. Yeah. So that's generally proven to be pretty successful for my Saturday live streams. If I get to a point where I start getting too many excerpts, maybe I'll spread them out to Sundays. But as so far, the Saturday, I've been able to get through generally a good amount on my Saturdays. Oh, I love it. Ben is in there. Yes. Ben made it. It was a really good that little excerpt, that piece that I had in there, Jessica, worked really, really well between my reading of just that action scene and then the feedback with kind of making it seem that it was still like a really great story. So I was trying to like piece together all of the critiques over the past couple weekends in a way that didn't really feel like, in a way that highlighted me as an editor and highlighted each of you as a writer. So that was the balance that I was trying to find. So super fun. Yay. Thanks again for submitting it. That was great. That was fun. But all right. So we're at the 2-hour mark. So I'm going to hop into my next meeting. But thank you all for joining me. And I appreciate y'all. Hopefully I'll see you on my Saturday stream tomorrow. Once again, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Once again, I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow.